In November 1931, deep in the frozen waters off northern Alaska, a ship disappeared. Its crew had already abandoned it. For weeks, the vessel had been trapped in Arctic ice. Then came a violent blizzard. When the storm finally cleared, the ship was gone. There was only one reasonable explanation. The ice had crushed it. The Arctic had swallowed it. SS Baychimo was lost, except it wasn't. Because days later, the dead ship appeared again, and that was only the beginning. Baychimo had not been built to become a mystery. It was a working ship, a steel-hulled cargo vessel built in Sweden in 1914. Later acquired by the Hudson Bay Company. For years, it traveled through some of the most unforgiving waters on Earth, carrying supplies into remote Arctic settlements and bringing valuable cargo back south. It was tough. It had to be. But in October 1931, Baychimo encountered something even tougher. Winter. Sea ice closed around the ship near Point Barrow, Alaska. At first, the crew waited. Ships operating in the Arctic sometimes became temporarily trapped. The ice might move. The ship might break free. But this time, it didn't. As conditions worsened, passengers and part of the crew were evacuated. A smaller group remained behind. They built a temporary camp on shore and continued watching the ship. Their plan was simple. Wait for the ice to release Baychimo, then bring her home. But the Arctic had other plans. On November the 26th, a powerful blizzard swept across the area. Snow erased the horizon. Wind buried the landscape. For days, the men could do little but wait. And when the weather finally cleared, Baychimo was gone. No ship, no wreckage, nothing. The men believed the obvious. The pressure of the moving ice must have crushed the hull. Baychimo had sunk. For most ships, that would have been the end of the story. But a short time later, local hunters brought unexpected news. They had seen a ship, far from where Baychimo had disappeared. The crew went looking, and there it was. Still afloat, still trapped among the ice, still refusing to die. The crew returned aboard, but after everything that had happened, the Hudson Bay Company no longer considered the ship safe enough to recover. They removed valuable cargo, and then they did something extraordinary. They left Baychimo behind. No captain, no engineer, no crew, no one steering it. The ship was simply abandoned to the Arctic. Surely now, the story was over. It wasn't. Over the following years, Baychimo began appearing again. Hunters saw it. Travelers encountered it. People climbed aboard. Sometimes it was trapped in ice. Sometimes it had drifted somewhere else. And every time it disappeared, there was another reason to assume that this time, it really had sunk. Then someone would see it again. One of the most remarkable encounters came in 1933. a Scottish botanist and Arctic traveler named Isobel Wylie Hutchison was traveling aboard a small vessel called the Trader. News reached them that Baychimo had been spotted near the coast, so they went looking for it, and they found it. Imagine approaching that ship. No smoke from its funnel, no movement on deck, no crew waiting at the rail, just a steel vessel sitting silently in the Arctic. Abandoned for nearly 2 years. Hutchison climbed aboard. She walked through a ship that should have disappeared long before. And she took several objects with her. Among them were sheets of Hudson Bay Company stationery. Later, she used one of those sheets to write a letter to her sister. That letter still survives, which means that nearly a century later, we have something remarkable. A piece of paper taken directly from the ghost ship by someone who actually stood on its deck. Baychimo was not a sailor's legend. It was really there. But the ship would not stay there. The Arctic took it again. Years passed. Reports continued to surface. An abandoned steel ship appearing and disappearing among thousands of square kilometers of ice. And this is where the legend of Baychimo becomes easy to exaggerate. It did not spend decades sailing endlessly across open water like some supernatural vessel. The reality may have been stranger. Baychimo was caught inside one of the most powerful transportation systems on Earth. Arctic sea ice. Sea ice is not stationary. Entire fields of ice move. They drift with winds and ocean currents. A ship trapped inside them can move too. Slowly, silently, sometimes for enormous distances. Then conditions change. Ice breaks apart. The ship is released. Later, another freeze traps it again. And Baychimo's strong steel hull had already been designed for exactly this brutal environment. The very thing everyone expected to destroy the ship may have helped preserve it. For years, the Arctic ice became Baychimo's prison. But it may also have become its shelter. Think about what that means. No maintenance, no engine crew, no repairs, no captain. Winter after winter, freeze after freeze, storm after storm. And somewhere across that enormous frozen wilderness, Baychimo kept moving. Sometimes people found it. Most of the time, nobody knew where it was. And gradually, the sightings became fewer. The 1930s passed, then the 1940s, then the 1950s. By now, the ship belonged to another era. The world that had built Baychimo had changed almost beyond recognition. Jet aircraft crossed continents. Satellites orbited the Earth. Humans were preparing to walk on the moon. And somewhere in the Arctic, reports of the old abandoned cargo ship still refused to disappear completely. Then came 1969, 38 years after Baychimo had been abandoned. The Hudson Bay Company archives record what would become the most recent known sighting of the ship. Baychimo was reportedly seen once again in the Arctic ice. And then, nothing. No confirmed recovery, no final voyage, no documented sinking, no known wreck. After surviving in one form or another through almost 4 decades of Arctic reports, Baychimo simply disappeared for the second time. Only this time, it never came back. There is almost certainly no supernatural answer to the mystery. Ships do not live, they do not choose where they go, and they do not refuse to die. Baychimo was steel, machinery, and physics. Wind moved it, currents moved it, ice carried it, and eventually, the same forces probably destroyed it. Perhaps shifting ice finally crushed its aging hull. Perhaps it filled with water during a storm. Perhaps it sank somewhere beneath the Beaufort Sea. We don't know, because Baychimo's final resting place has never been conclusively identified. And that may be the strangest part of the story. For decades, people searched the horizon and occasionally found a ship that had been abandoned years before. But today, we can search beneath the surface. Somewhere under those cold Arctic waters, there may still be a steel hull resting in darkness. A ship built in 1914. Abandoned in 1931. Last recorded in the Hudson Bay Company archives in 1969. Waiting to answer the one question Baychimo left behind. Where did the ghost ship finally go? Perhaps one day we will find it. And if we do, the final mystery of SS Baychimo will not be how it survived for so long. It will be discovering exactly where the Arctic finally decided to keep it.